G'day, I am Alistair Christie, and for your viewing pleasure today I have prepared a section out of my as yet unreleased building apps in Delphi with the VCL Part 3. Parts 1 and 2 are currently available for sale on my website learndelphi.tv, and I think they represent outstanding value for money. Of course, I'm a little bit biased. Anyhow, in this video we're going to look at THeaderControl, and the reason I'm releasing it for free is a couple of reasons. Firstly, it relates to a question I asked on Stack Overflow as to the actual usefulness of THeaderControl, and it's not overly useful, but it can be used. So, and I got a response, so it's always good to give back after you've received, but you know, it always also works best if you do it in reverse. And the second reason is that I'm hoping that after you watch this video you'll think it's very instructive and helpful and wonderful, and you'll want to go and buy parts 1 and 2 and 3 when it becomes available. So that's enough of an introduction from me. Let's get on with the show. The last of the Win3.1 controls is THeader, and it's another one best not to use, but we'll cover it really briefly. If we come down, there's a sections property. Which it looks like you can size them at design time, but you actually can't. If we run that, we can in fact resize those sections at runtime. And there's a couple of events, on sized and on sizing. But there is a better control. I'll get rid of that, and that's THeaderControl, which by default gets aligned to top, and in that we can create a number of sections. So create 3 sections and rather creatively call them 1, 2 and 3, and also add some list boxes. Also 1, 2 and 3, and just to make sure we can distinguish them, I'll go down to the it's items property, isn't it? 1, 2 and 3, and I'm just going to align them all left. Now, on our header control, we have a on section resize, and in that it actually gives us the sections, the given section that's been resized. But I'm just going to do a sort of a global 1.width resize of all our list boxes. So sections, the first section is 0, list box 2, and of course list box 3, and sections 1 and 2. And if I run that, nothing happens immediately, but if I resize, we get our various list boxes being resized. Which could easily be done with a splitter, but you might want to use sections instead. And to make it work, in the onCreate, I will call it with nil, because we're not actually using any of the parameters. And just verify that works. And there we have our sections. Okay, so let's look at some of the public properties of header control. So there's a checkboxes property. If I grab a section and turn on checkbox for the first 2, you'll notice it's not actually showing checkboxes. It'll only do that when checkboxes is ticked. And along with checkboxes, there is a corresponding on section check. So we can go if checked, then not that we need the semicolon for the last line in a procedure, but so we've got 2 is checked, 1 is checked, and 1 unchecked. So let's go back to the properties. So there is a drag reorder, which enables us to reorder our sections. So I can shift section 1 to the end, and if I resize section 3, say, and shove that, we'll see that it's not reorganized our list boxes. What we'd need to do is there are a couple of events. Section in drag, which is not very helpful because there's no properties, but there's a section drag, which gives us a from section and to section. And we can actually disallow it as well if we wanted to. So that would that event would allow us to swap the list boxes around, but I won't do it. It's a bit fiddly. Full drag and hot drag I don't think do anything unless VCL themes are disabled, and why would you disable them? So you can pretty much ignore them. No sizing, that somewhat defeats the purpose of so we can't resize. There's also, if I turn that one off, a particular one that we don't want to resize. We can go into a section, say section 2, and say fixed size is, fixed width is true. So we can resize section 1, but section 2 we don't get the little resize cursor. There's an overflow. If that's ticked, when a section is sized beyond the edge of the form, we get this little indicator, which disappears if everything's within the width of the form. Of course, our sections property, the style property, we've got buttons and flat, and you need to disable VCL themes again to make that do anything, so it's probably best avoided. So I think that is all the public properties, apart from images, which I suppose throw an image list on there and make these 32-bit. And we can grab a couple of these. Sort of semi at random. And to make them work, we need to go into one of these and say, hook up the images. And pick an image. And of course we need to be a bit wider to be able to see, and so on. There are no events on the sections, but there's some more properties. Allow click. So if I turn it off for section 1, and let's just make these a bit wider, 120 we'll say. So I've turned off allow click, and I can't, when I click on that nothing happens. In fact, when I click on that nothing happens as well. We'll demonstrate the on-click event shortly. I'll come back to that one. Auto size. I actually don't know what that one does. The help says indicates whether the header section should size itself to exactly hold its contents. So if we go to section 3 and set auto size to true and run it, does it indeed? Somewhat excessively, so maybe that doesn't work quite as expected. Checkboxes are done, checked. We can check the checkbox by default. Fixed width we've already done, image index we've done, so min and max width. If we go to 2 and set the min width to say 50 and the max width to 200. It will in fact limit what we can resize it to. Except section 2 is fixed width. To turn that off and try that again. So minimum size and maximum size. And I think if I set, just looking at that, I should have done this in advance, but if I set that max width to be 300 say, and then set the auto size to true, I wonder if that's going to, yes, automatically go out to 300. Not sure how useful that is actually, but anyway, so there's a style, owner draw and text, which I'm not doing owner draw in this video series, the text property, and I should probably mention alignment as well. So that is all the properties I think we've covered there. So we go back to our header control and take a look at the events. So there's an on context pop-up, so to make that work, we'll throw a pop-up menu and let's add a single, and if we associate the pop-up menu with the header control, it works, right click and we get the pop-up where we right clicked. That behavior might not be desirable for some reason, so there's an on context pop-up, and if handled as true, it will in fact do nothing. And what I'll do is, so we need to pop up at an X and Y location. What I'll do is I'll make it pop up just under the first header of the first section. So we need to go, let's see, so header control 1 dot client to screen, and we need a point, and it'll be 0 and header control 1 dot height. Okay, and that should be a location just under the header control, and we'll do a point, so standard Control Shift V, and we need another bracket there by the look of it. Unfortunately, it's not an overloaded pop-up with that takes a point, which would be handy. And now when I right click, we get our pop-up appearing at the very beginning there. So that's the on context pop-up, and we've actually already covered that in another create class I'm going to come back to. Draw section, so that's to do with owner draw. Docking and dragging we've covered previously. gestures we haven't covered yet. Mouse events already done. So on section click, I'm going to come back to that moment. We've already mentioned the drag on section track. It's very similar to the on section resize, but we get a bunch of extra parameters. So let's go. Something like that. Let's copy that. So if I go in between our sections and click, we get a begin for section 1, and then we get a move, and when I release the mouse we get the end. So it gives a bit more flexibility, and of course we've got a width parameter as well. And drag and dock we did in part 2. So the two we haven't done is on click and on create class. So what I'll do is we'll do this create class first, and to do that we need to define a new my header section equals and let's have a public lucky number integer, and we want to assign something to that, so we need to override the constructor. And let's Control Shift C to create that. And it's called random. I think I did it last time as well. Lucky number. So very similar to list view and tree view. And if we run that, and in the on click, on section click, so we can say what I might actually do. Or maybe it's called lucky. Is assigned section as T dot lucky number. And this is actually going to fail miserably, and I'll just demonstrate that. And we get a invalid typecast. Oh no, it doesn't make that much bigger. Button, and we'll add TheaderControl dot section. So we'll add a new section. Oops, I need a bracket there. And I'll throw where is our I got ahead of myself. So what we do need to say is the section class, and this will still fall over in a big heap if I click on a section header with an invalid typecast. If I create a new section and click on it, we do in fact get our lucky number. So the sections built at design time don't get in fact we can just breakpoint there. And click on, I suppose I probably want to rerun that. And we see that this event doesn't get fired at all, but if I create a new section, it does. So something just to be aware of. And the create class is pretty cool, as you saw when we covered list view and tree view. You can fill in all sorts of extra data. And I think that is now all our properties covered and all the events that are of note. So we'll stop there for our THeaderControl and move on.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you found it useful, instructive, or otherwise helpful or entertaining, head on over to learndelphi.tv and buy my building applications in Delphi using the Visual Component Library parts 1 and 2 and very shortly part 3. I'm Alistair Christie for learndelphi.tv.